Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Before we get to the good shit this week, we wanted to remind you that we have a Patreon. For just $1 or $2 an episode, you get extended games, brand new content, access to our notes and murder boards, and much more. So if you would like to help Brooke buy more inspirational posters of cows watching sunsets, you can head to patreon.com/frontline5th or follow the link in our show notes. Okay, now back to that sweet, sweet Bone Zone action.
Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome to the Frontline Fifth, a Locked Tomb podcast where a couple of delightfully naive teacher's aides explore the Locked Tomb series for the first time, while a couple of dried-out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. We're currently reading Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, and this week we are sneaking off to the broadcast. Don't worry, we left a note with Noodle in chapter 16 and John 19:18. I'm your host, Marie, and because I'm a good person and I feel responsible, I've been following Hannah to all of the insane places she sneaks off to for years now. Hannah,
Sorry, Marie.
what is your favorite animal to draw?
I'm very bad at drawing. Like, Pictionary is my least favorite game. And so I can draw exactly two animals.
Ooh.
One is a version of like Snoopy that's based on the number 25 and it becomes an ear, and it's the only thing I know how to draw.
No.
He has to wear a baseball cap because otherwise the 5 part doesn't make sense. Don't worry about it. And then I can draw a snail. Those are my options.
Snail! That's amazing. Okay, also with us today are the sweet buds of youth, far more innocent than honesty. Brooke and John. Brooke, John, when the angel tells you to draw your favorite animal, what are you creating?
Similarly to Hannah, my art skills were stunted in the 3rd to 5th grade, and all I could do is draw that weird puppy dog that's made with 4 little humps for their front paws and 1 big hump for the head, and then 2 little ears that come off of it, and then you draw some spots. It's just a series of half circles.
That sounds adorable.
I am very, very mildly artistic. Like, I can trace things. Like, I've done
I don't think I knew this.
I've done some paintings
Did I
for my
know
wife.
this?
Yes, you've seen the Game of Thrones paintings.
Actually, yeah, the Game
it
of
sounds
Thrones
vaguely
paintings are
familiar,
his.
but
They're
I don't
pretty
have anything
cool.
in my head. Please share again.
Yeah,
I don't remember anymore.
I'll grab the Muzzy thing. But no, my favorite animal to draw is my dogs. Obviously,
Okay, so everybody's drawing dogs.
And then second would be the sun bear, my white whale of the San Diego Zoo.
Can I make you jealous and tell you that I
so
got to
lovely.
hold a harmonica for a sun bear so that I
What?
could play
I
it?
need-
What? Do sun bears blow into harmonicas?
So much more information.
Actually, this is 15 years ago plus now, because it was like 2 weeks old and it was Mama's first outing, and Mama's first outing was to the small little zoo because this is too much information about me. My mom knew everybody and she knew the zookeeper, and the zookeeper was like, "Do you want to come hug a penguin?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah." Yeah.
Literally every part of this sounds amazing. I know a zookeeper at the zoo in Boston, and that is a great idea, Marie. I'm absolutely going to do that. I'm going to hit her up and be like, "You said I could feed the red panda. You said I could."
Oh, if they said so, then yeah, because like this was like little tiny zoo, right? One of my favorite zoos, honestly, but it's a little teeny tiny zoo. So
I can see
It's
why
a little
your
teeny tiny
favorite.
zoo with a penguin and a sun bear. That's fucking awesome. Also, when you said I got to hold a harmonica for a sun bear, there were like 2 options there, right? You hold a harmonica where the sun bear like plays it, but I also like the one where the sun bear is like pissed off at someone and is like, "Take this, I'm going to beat that, like motherfucker up."
I
Like,
like
hold
that
my
version.
harmonica, bitch.
yeah, no, part of the enrichment was like training the sun bears because they're very smart and need things. It's kind of like having like a working dog, and so you have to like teach them to do things. And they're like, "Do you want to
didn't
hold?"
know
So you
that.
like hold it up to like the little bar, like because it's like a grill still, because it's still a very large carnivorous animal. Are they carnivorous?
Okay.
Anyway, it's a very large
John, your
animal that
art
could
is-
rip you apart.
Here's the thing.
I want a sun bear
Marie-
with a harmonica drawn by John.
Yes, I actually would like us to commission a bear with a harmonica from John. And Marie, what would you draw? Would you draw yourself holding a harmonica for a sun bear? What is your
I
animal?
don't draw people. I'm like John. With help, I can get to something okay. And I've actually drawn a whole bunch of animals, mostly kind of tracing, because I make myself a wall calendar that I did like 2 years ago and has been on my wall for 2 years. And now I have to.
Nice.
It's like a 3x4 poster size, like entire year. But it had really great art that I made for each thing. It was migrating animals. So some of them had reindeer. There was monarch butterflies. There was a bunch of whales. There was like sandhill crane.
So cool.
And now I just need to be like, I still like this. Although I have a bobtail squid in there now. Like I have a bobtail squid that I grew that I was
Hawaiian
like,
bobtail squid is my
maybe
favorite
put,
animal.
like,
That's amazing.
I was going to try and make a whole calendar that was like microbiome, but like microbiome is slightly more boring because really it's just like cows and termites and bobtail squid are like the things that I would want to draw for microbiome or like microbes.
You could expand it to symbiosis.
No, that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be symbiosis, not microbiome. Buzzwords. But then yeah, like soybean plants, and you got to draw the nodules. Who cares about like the nodules on a soybean plant? Like,
are you kidding? I'm
here for
rhizobia.
I care about them.
Don't you?
I care about them. But like, how do I make it like look cool in that art style? Anyway, it's a work in progress.
That's cool.
That really went somewhere. Okay, so this week
good luck editing that, Marie.
Shit hit the fan. I personally could not be more excited. So, what was your favorite moment from these chapters? Because I see that Hannah has already stolen all of the good ones.
Hannah, what were your favorite moments?
I got here first. I love the moment when Honesty says, "You've got me by the balls here," and the angel goes, "Please never say that again." It was like the most relatable,
appropriate teacher
Please
moment.
never say that again. It was beautiful. I also really like. There's a moment when Nona was so cowed that she didn't even ask what part of you the asset was, because Hot Sauce is like, the asset doesn't have to trust you. And Nona's like, what part of you is the asset? And then we have been waiting.
So
when did we
fucking
start this
long.
podcast? We started this podcast in October of 2023, 2020.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, 2024.
Four, yes.
Okay, great. We've been waiting since then for Cows Watch Sunsets. I can't even begin to tell you how fucking funny this was, because Cows Watch Sunsets is funny all by itself, but then the frequency
kept bringing up cows.
Holy fucking shit. There are so many episodes where you guys brought up cows on your own, and
Really?
Marie or I would sneak in some iteration of, and cows probably watch
cows have
Sunsets.
best friends.
I'd like literally fucking dying
God damn it.
laughing afterwards. This is like literally a year and a half of trying not
Because
to
we
pee
didn't have to do
myself
anything.
laughing.
When John brought up fucking secret cow level, and we were
Secret
like,
cow
"There's a
level?
what?"
And then we did a random 2 truths and a lie, and of course Brooke
I
brought
did
in
cows.
cow facts, and I thought I was gonna die. Like I literally,
Okay, so it's
Oh,
just been
God.
2 times, guys.
Oh, it's more than that.
It's more
There's
than
more.
2 times. Like, you would not believe how many times cows have come up, and it
Cows
has
come
not
up
been
frequently.
Hannah or I bringing up
What?
cows.
It hurts my heart.
I mean, I
It's the
work with
best.
cows, so.
Okay. Anyway, that's all my favorites.
Yeah, that's essentially my favorites, is just
Well,
waiting
anyway,
for Cows
as-
Watch Sunsets.
Somebody who has not read these books before and has been just la-di-da-di-da through this boring-ass fucking book.
It's
Oh,
not boring.
come
It's not boring.
on.
I'm sorry. It's sorry. I'm just being dramatic.
It's not boring, but it does feel like an anthology of short stories that are like tangentially related to the world, but haven't actually done anything for the plot. So this time, this chapter, when we're getting like this description of the broadcaster, and I'm just like, huh?
Oh my god,
Hair
it's
and
literally
lip gloss?
Babs.
And then they have Gideon's body. I was like, ah! It was like screaming. I'm sorry. That was probably really bad for my microphone and recording purposes.
But it got the point across, you know?
Anyway, so big step up this week. Yeah, John?
Yeah, this feels like I think we've reached the tipping point that we get to in the previous 2 books where shit is starting to hit the fan, and it's going to be a all hell breaks loose, no holds bar, just rush to the finish. And I'm very excited because I've enjoyed Nona thus far, but I do think it has like the slowest burn of the 3 books thus far. Like it really is just a lot of building and a lot of, especially for us, puzzle pieces that we don't quite understand where they go yet. Like we are getting, I think I would have personally enjoyed this book a lot. Like I'm very much so enjoying this book. I think I would have enjoyed it even more if I wasn't reading 2 chapters a week. Like if I could
for sure.
if I could just rip through it,
Right.
it would have been
kind of
fine.
crush through it.
Yeah.
It does remind me of how we started in Gideon, but I remember very specifically it took until chapter 12 in Gideon for me to be like, oh, I'm ready for this book. I am reading. I'm having a hard time putting it down. This is chapter 16. This is much further into a goddamn book.
It's
This is
true. It's
long.
interesting to me that this is my favorite book, and I think part of it is that I'm not interested in plot as a concept.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm very interested in world and I'm very interested in characters, and I also have a particular fondness for people who can write for children, because I think it's hard to take seriously the plot lines that are going on in a child's life, and that's what we've been reading mostly is honestly the gang and their shit, which has nothing to do with what you're waiting for. I almost wonder if this had been the first book, would it feel as slow, or is it feel slow because
Nobody read it.
that shit is that there's big plot behind it. You're waiting for things.
Waiting for the adults to give you some secondhand information. Wait,
Yeah.
but Hannah, I want to know if you felt that way on your first read through.
Yes. This
This
is my
was still your
favorite book
favorite.
from the first chapter.
Wow.
Yeah. This one was right
makes
away.
sense for
I knew
you.
that I loved this one. Yeah, it clearly is just a
You're like, yeah, I
a
can
me
pause
thing,
on this
which is
whole
fine.
plot line of what's
I
going on.
really could not give a shit about plot.
Yeah,
I will
it
also-
wasn't my favorite on it's almost my it's hard for me to beat Harrow because Harrow is the reason I'm obsessed with this series. But I do think in some ways I don't know. It's how do you pick a favorite child? I don't know that I could say that this one is. I was going to try and say maybe this is my favorite. It isn't. It has some of the most emotional gut punches, even worse than the other ones for me. This is the one that kills me. And I think it's because you spend so much time just kind of emotionally with them after you already know them. One thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really interesting is from the Locked Tomb Reddit. I remember a while ago there was a post talking about how the way that Nona is written feels very much like Anne of Green Gables.
Which I also couldn't ever get past the first quarter of.
I really like that too, because I also feel like Anne of Green Gables is the same way in that the plot doesn't matter that much. The plot matters over the course of the entire series and watching Anne grow up. But the thing that's interesting about those books is the minutia and drama and intensity of how you feel about the world when you are 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Which there's something beautiful about it. And I think that there's something really beautiful about Nona because it does feel like it's very much an homage to that type of literature.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you, Marie. I think that's actually a wonderful place of relation. And actually we get an Anne of Green Gables reference. I only know this because I was going through and collecting memes and references for the next couple chapters. So at some point in the next 2 episodes, there's an Anne of Green Gables reference. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I wonder if she was actually thinking about it. But I will say that, Brooke, you are also dead on that in each book, there is that pivot point, that threshold point. And this one exploded my brain. I was like, what the fucking fuck? I didn't know what the broadcast was going to be. And then it was so insane.
You do have a couple of things here for meme watch for us, Hannah.
I do. We have the hokey pokey, which, is what it's all about. So, and then the other
I was
one
going to make
is
that
that
joke if you weren't going to, so I'm glad you did.
Covered.
The other one, I don't know if this is a meme watch or if this is just a phrase I had never heard before, but I was like, there's a part where Ianthe says, that'll fix their little red wagons.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what that means. So I Googled it. And apparently fix your wagon is to get even with someone, get revenge on someone, or spoil someone's chance of success. And I was thinking about it with little red wagons because I feel like that itself is such a classic image and there's poetry about it. And I was like, do we have little red wagons in the third house? I'm just interested in how much shit got brought
idioms,
along over the 10,000 years. I don't know, man.
I think that's a slip.
I am confused about this phrase. So when Ianthe Nibirius is saying that'll fix their red wagon, she's saying that she's getting revenge on them. I'm trying to figure out who's the target and who's the recipient of revenge.
I feel like it's more like the spoil someone's chances of success. That'll fucking,
that's going to fix them.
So it's sarcastic. It's
Yeah, that'll give them something to think about.
That'll fix their wagon, aka not at all.
Yeah.
With that, let's cling to your lamppost and try not to fall as we present Nona the Ninth, episode 10. It's zombies! They're back! Holy shit! Act 2. You can't let me not swear about this. It'll give me inhibitions.
This section of Frontline Fifth is safe for anyone who hasn't read past John 19:18 in Nona the Ninth.
Let's recap. Chapter 16, The Tower. Hot Sauce and Nona watch a zombie broadcast. The girl from the dream, Pyrrha, is missing.
So, Nona wakes up from her nap when Honesty is rushing back into the room with big news. The zombies are back! They're planning on a screening of video in the park at 5:30. And now Honesty's like, you know what this means? It's war. And with a war on, he's going to have to quit school to deal full time. Which the angel reminds him he'll have to at least come back for maths because his multiplication tables are shit, and
that'll get him killed.
Yeah, it'll get him. Yeah, it'll get him cheated. So
I'm also just such a fan of this being a response to war. You're like, war is coming. I'm gonna have to deal drugs full time.
I mean, he's an opportunist. Like, he's a survivor.
He's an entrepreneur.
Born and Ruby both come rushing in as well because they were racing each other up the stairs to try and give this news. Honesty's already beat them to it. And then everyone is freaking out until the angel makes them all sit down on the mats and promise on their honor that none of them will go to the park tonight. And they all promise, except for Nona, who isn't asked to promise, and Hot Sauce, who did say okay, but she said it with her fingers crossed. And Nona notices this. Jolie, who is the nice lady teacher, she's gone home, and the angel doesn't really feel like teaching. There's a war on. So instead, they all get out paper and crayons and chalk and spend some time drawing their favorite animal, which is Noodle.
Hey, so they're just like us, man. Just draw dogs. Just draw dogs.
Just draw dogs.
But Nona spends some time sketching what she thinks animals ought to look like on best principles.
Wonder what that means.
Yeah.
Wait, it's a cute concept.
Dinosaurs.
Wait, we get one of those fun Tamsin details that gets lobbed in here during this, and I think I've read this series enough that like my brain starts itching when I read these types of things. And that was that Noodle has a pair of arboreal legs.
Okay, it's
he has 6
bred
legs
for that.
Yes, he was bred to have
6 legs, and one pair is arboreal.
Which is
I feel
for
like
trees.
It's just like, it just means they branch out because they don't touch the ground, at least on the picture on the front, which
I'm with John. I feel like this is like if you're going like an evo-devo route, like arboreal means you should be climbing trees. It's about locomotion. But I also agree with Brooke that like the pictures, I'm like, how? You're going to climb with just 2? I don't know, but he's definitely a weird fucking dog.
None of the houses have trees, so like I think that
Yeah, but he's not from the houses.
Yeah, but I think that gives us clues about the angel.
My sense of this was that Tamsin in her head very briefly thought, what would we do with another 10,000 years of dog breeding? And came up with an extra pair of legs.
And let me tell you,
branching out
tragically,
like tree branches,
not possible from a breeding perspective. I could give you a whole lecture on the
maybe with
necromancy.
necromancy.
This is sci-fi fantasy,
but I know
there's necromancy in this world, Hannah.
See,
That's
I was
true.
thinking that he's an alien dog.
Yeah, no, me too.
Somehow there's some
just
other
said
thing.
it's bred,
that.
so
but I like the idea that he's literally not actually like related to Earth canids. He just happens to be.
That's
I didn't realize
dogs
now.
I didn't realize that was like my headcanon is that he is not related to Earth dogs and like canids that we know at all. Or if he is, he's a hybrid between that and some alien thing that they've done like GMO stuff for. Because in my mind, I also know like you're not automatic, like you're not all of a sudden going to get more limbs. Like that's insane. You're not going to breed for that. Anyway. Okay.
Long way to go for this.
Biologist break.
in these books.
I mean, we hear about alien animals, but we don't see alien people. We just see humans. Anyway, eventually the angel asks Nona to take Noodle outside because, it's not fair on his aging kidneys to ask him to hold it. And Hot Sauce says she'll go with her. And when they go downstairs, they take a Noodle out and do all of that. And then they're coming back into the foyer to get ready to head back upstairs, and Hot Sauce announces that she's going to go to the broadcast. And Nona, as teacher's aide, feels a fervent responsibility to go with Hot Sauce. And when you commit to something, you have to go all in. Once you're in, you're in. This isn't the hokey pokey. And she has this moment of, I remembered something. And then that's all we get. So they can't just go back because then the angel won't let them go. And so they leave a note for the angel tucked under Noodle's collar, and off they run towards the square. I also love the moment with the note because Nona says, but I can't write. And Hot Sauce goes, I can, mostly.
Because firstly, they're fucking children. Secondly, like, how much schooling has Hot Sauce got total? Like a couple of years here, maybe? I mean, who knows if she got any before? But I think it is very responsible of them and thoughtful of them to leave a note. It's really fucked up to leave without leaving a note. That's, dear listeners, those Frontline Fifth, I expect you to leave notes when you go off and are scaring people that way. But also, I'm a huge fan of note delivery via dog. And I'm gonna start doing that. If I thought that my husband would actually notice, I would leave him notes on Pepper's collar all the time.
That's the problem.
Well, when you
right?
disappear, maybe.
It's also true.
So at the park, there are militia guys who are limiting who can get in, and there's no children. So Hot Sauce and Nona make themselves big and confident and walk right past the guards and into the crowd. And it's a really interesting moment where Nona notices Hot Sauce walking not like a child, but like an adult woman. And then she throws her shoulders back and softens her hips and like walks the same way. And Hot Sauce just looks at her and is like, yeah, good, you know. I thought it was really
sneak
interesting.
into the 18 and older dance club when I was in high school.
You throw back your shoulders and soften your hips.
You walk with confidence, but you also walk with a facial expression that says, I'm pissed already. And people are like, I don't have to check your ID.
Yeah, people stopped IDing me when I got like generally really down about work every day. I would think it was just the expression on my face of like, I am tired and miserable.
It's the George from Seinfeld thing. No one will bother you if you just look angry and busy. Like, right? You just have to look.
That's totally true. But I also like the version where they're like, well, that woman has really experienced some shit. No one would be that cynical or despairing unless you were over the age of 21.
They find themselves a lamppost and they wriggle their way up to sit on the crossbar above the massive people standing silently watching the screen. So they've got a great view. And there are some technical difficulties unfolding the screen and getting everything to work. And Nona is like, if this were a different situation, this would be fucking hilarious because they're like trying to pin the screen and like one end they get it pinned and then the opposite corner goes pin, and then it's just taking forever.
Right. But it's notable that like all the people there are just sitting there silently. It's fucking creepy, right? Yeah. Like
everybody's just on pins and needles being like, what the fuck is this going to be?
What was Pyrrha talking about earlier in this book? These were the false labor pains.
Oh, you're right. That,
so
like,
what's
everyone's
that analogy?
Yelling now, but they're not going to yell when shit. That's a great pull.
Because they're having problems with the screen, the broadcast starts with just sound and it's caught in the middle of a sentence. So it's like whatever was previously said has already been, we don't know what it was. And when the video actually comes up, Nona sees a person with an expression of intense boredom, perfectly white clothing, and shiny hair and lips. And it looks like the hair was sculpted, not grown.
Oh my
wearing
God.
lip gloss all the time.
And then they got to the eyes.
I think this is like my greatest shame in the Locked Tomb series is that I did not get this. And in fact, I thought it was like a really obvious writing error. I was like, why would you ever describe Ianthe's hair as perfect? It's described as thick.
Sculpted.
It's described as sculpted. It's described as so shiny that you can't see like the scalp through the lights. And I was like, none of this. I was like, did Ianthe like spend time growing her hair?
Yeah, no,
is that what she like did for the last
kind of
6
having
months?
like lank, limp, blonde hair, right?
Yeah, so I literally just dismissed this as an error, and it's so fucking obvious. The lip gloss, for fuck's sake, like this is that.
To be fair, the first thing I'm doing with Lictor powers is giving myself the thickest head of hair you've ever seen.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm gonna look like a 12-year-old Dutch boy.
Okay, let's talk about this though, because like, we spent some time trying to figure out who the fuck they would have sent and how this could have worked, blah, 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 blah. And, like, meanwhile, earlier in this book, they're talking about right soul, wrong body.
Oh,
yeah, let's
God.
finish this because the rest of the description is that the person is frighteningly pale with hair that is alarmingly perfect in shape and form, and they ultimately identify themselves as Prince Ianthe Nibirius I, the Lictor Prince, the Saint of Awe.
Saint of Awe? Really?
And the crowd just starts to go, Lictor, 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 Lictor,
The
Lictor, Lictor. Like
Saint
this
of
just
all
ripples
fuck.
through
What
the
is
crowd.
going on?
And people start freaking the fuck out.
This
Exactly.
is actually so in Harrow, Jod does say that if you were to pick another name, he would pick the Saint of Awe for Ianthe. And this is actually like this is because she's an eternal surprise, and I feel like that's like
Not how they picked
not
the
how I
Lictor
would
names.
describe. Well, not how I would describe Ianthe, and then also all the Lictor names are supposed to be for the Cav.
Right.
And he's
which
never
is
met
why
Nibirius. The
I
idea
was
of
just like,
Saint of Awe for Babs is
Yuck.
so fucking
It's
funny.
really funny.
I love
The
it.
other thing I think is really interesting is that she is choosing to style herself the way that Kithareya wanted them to be called. So
Say that
Kithareya
again.
was the one who said she would have wanted to be called Kithareya Loveday, that the name should be both the Lictor and the Cav. And so that's what
Interesting.
Ianthe is doing here, which is, I find interesting.
this
Because
was, like,
everybody
a
else was like,
distinct-
ugh, that's just so sickening. Like there's a thing where Augustine says like mine would be like just too disgustingly alliterative. And like that was
Yeah.
Kit's thing. She wanted to be called that.
But, I mean, this is a different situation because Kithareya seemed to really love Loveday, whereas Nibirius was simply a tool for Ianthe.
Exactly. I think that's why I think this is a little bit interesting is because the Lictor name, the Saint of Awe, is describing Ianthe, not Nibirius. But Ianthe Nibirius is an
occupying Nibirius'
homage.
body.
Yeah, is an homage to, like, I guess the fact that she's writing Nibirius's body currently.
That's
but
what I
also,
think so.
like, you know, like it seems kind of weird because the other time that we've seen that thing was with Kithareya, or like referred
What do
to
you
as
mean?
Kithareya, who
Oh,
was
sure.
obsessed with
No, understood.
Loveday.
Sure. To me, this was
So
just
it's like an interesting thing.
A callback, and then put in a different name for her in Nibirius's body. This is a name for Nibirius's body.
I wonder about that
occupying her
too.
soul.
If we like encountered Ianthe, would she be referring to herself as Prince Ianthe Nibirius, or would she just be
No.
Ianthe?
I think so.
Do you know? I'm with you. I think that could just be her in this context. She is like the Lictor Prince, the singular. That's really interesting. I also think it's interesting that they're using names now because Mercy Morn actually was like pissy about anyone learning her name, and clearly that has shifted. It's also clear that, I mean, nobody ever had a title like Prince before. Like,
Right.
clearly the structure of what the Lictors plus Jod looks like is very different than it was.
Well, I've got to go see a man about a
About a queen.
Man About a Queen.
Yeah.
Ew.
True. Interesting.
And then the other kind of like weird thing here is they've figured out how to fool Varun.
I think that this, like that is the whole purpose of like Ianthe could not be here herself.
Right, this was the whole argument we had, but it had to have lictor powers. They had to have been able to drop through the river. So Pyrrha and Nona were talking about this earlier in the book, about why all the three of them, who are each in some way a lictor, a partial lictor, could get away with this. And it was about, you know, it was a kind of discussion of like, well, here's the situation that we observe amongst ourselves. Wrong body, right soul, wrong soul, right body. And how the hell did the Emperor the Emperor and Ianthe understand this? Like,
the structure of lictors anyway was supposed to be such that when the heralds come, when the resurrection beasts come, you switch so that your cavalier is fighting, and your
but to
cav,
think
even
to
though
put
it's
your
in a
soul in the other body and that works. That's wild.
it's really interesting. I wonder if they tested it first or if it's just that the theory pans out. I mean, obviously it is really fucking dark that you're using your cavalier's battery soul is a battery.
And now
Anyway,
their body.
There's
As a
something even
backpack.
darker about now. Yes, exactly. Like there's something that's really icky about that.
Yeah, you're
It's super
using it as like
icky.
a radiation shield, basically.
So all of that's pretty fucked up. And then we get the content of the broadcast. So here's just a summary. So first, the 9 houses are back in charge and they are laying out an agreement, which without further negotiation will be considered to be legally binding.
Not an agreement. That's not what that word means. If you can't negotiate it and agree upon it, like, you fucking idiots. That's so fucked up.
First red flag.
Yeah, first strike of imperialism.
Yep.
The 9 houses / the emperor are going to be friendly and helpful and lenient and graciously facilitating local elections and making sure everyone feels fairly represented, etc. It's really in everyone's best interest.
Strike 2.
There will be no blanket penalties and no effects on resettlement. So provided that everyone follows the conditions of the agreement / demands. All violence directed at cohort facilities, including the barracks, ceases immediately. All attacks on cohort soldiers, no matter where they are, ceases immediately. All casualties belonging to 9 houses are brought to the barracks immediately. BOE will cease operations, and anyone who comes into contact with BOE will refuse to help them. Any member of house personnel who has left their post has a 24-hour amnesty period to present themselves at the barracks and be granted mercy.
Front row crown.
Any individual or group that violates the conditions renders the entire agreement null and void and screws over the entire population who will now be considered to be a single entity that attempted a coup.
Strike 3.
I definitely missed that in the broadcast.
It's a classic manipulation tactic, and it's deeply fucked up. It puts yourself in a position where it's going to be your fault, not our fault, that we murder everyone around you.
Yep.
Yeah.
The emperor cares deeply for Nubro. He wants to help. And the blue shit in the atmosphere is no barrier to the graces or the punishments that the 9 houses can distribute, as evidenced by the fact that a fucking lictor is here, even though Varun is too. And Ianthe Nibiria says, I hope you find that comforting.
She's such an asshole. She's just such an asshole.
I need you guys to listen to this broadcast read by Moira Quirk, because it's so, like, just the way that Ianthe Nibirius is talking is just, it's very entertaining. You can also tell that the emperor is taking all of this very seriously because he sent his own 2 tower princes, Prince Ianthe Nibirius and Her Most Serene Highness, the Crown Prince, Kiriona Gaia, heir to the first house, the emperor's only daughter.
Where the fuck they get that name from?
Kiriona is a Maori, like, I don't know what the, like, transliteration of Gideon.
Oh, what?
Yep.
What?
That's where
That's
Kiriona
interesting. I didn't know that. Should have looked it up. Didn't know that.
Oh, okay. So when the K
Kiriona is
softened,
Gideon.
it sounds almost like a G.
And then the Gaia
Is
part
John,
is...
yeah.
Yeah, JG.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that, like, he feminizes the version of his last name.
Oh, Gaius, yeah.
But at the same time, they're both referred to as princes
Yeah.
rather than, it's a, there's just
Gender is
there's some weird gender shit going on here that I don't totally understand, but it feels intentional. Like, and I don't trust Jod when it comes to, Jod seems like such a misogynist to me that I just, like, have issues anytime he's the one picking out gender stuff.
Well, and also, now we have this thing of, like, what the fuck is the tower? And the first thing that I think of when you think of 2 princes in the tower is the whole, I'm not going to get my English history correctly, but that was Richard III kidnapped the 2 princes and then eventually murdered them. And then actually, it was like they went into the tower and they never came back out. And it's only, like, maybe within, like, the last couple of years that we found the bones that were like, yeah, they actually truly were murdered. Like, we knew they were murdered. We knew that Richard III murdered them.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. So I am not a history buff. It's Richard III. I do not care about history, and so did not know this was a real story. I know Shakespeare.
It is a real story, and it is, like, why all of, like, that, you know, because what did that kick off? Did that kick off war? That wasn't War of the Roses. War of the Roses was way earlier than that, wasn't it? Or
really
is this
can't
War
help
of the
you,
Roses?
but Richard III, the play, is all about him murdering
Whatever
these 2 children.
the opposite of the Roman Empire is my, like, English history.
This is
Sorry.
literally the only thing I know is like this whole thing of like you cause like basically you have the wicked uncle take the two princes who were the actual rightful heirs and shut them away in the tower for safety, and then eventually they never come out of the tower, and it's just kind of like, oh, like I don't know, something happened to them.
I love that that's where your mind went. My mind, because the other thing that I love and am really into is tarot. Anytime you're talking about the tower, I go very quickly to tarot. And in tarot, the tower is a frightening card because it's very sudden catastrophe. But it also is like about pride and building a tower and the hubris of like yourself, and like that shit crumbles around you. So I feel like there's a lot to pull from there.
And either way, it's not looking good for these two princes.
I went to like just Cannon House. It's just like it's a literal
that
literal tower because now we don't have the Mithraeum because it's a wreck at the bottom of the river.
Where
right?
have they been hanging out?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Anyway, so who is Prince Kiriona?
Yeah, so the camera pulls back to reveal Prince Kiriona, and Nona freaks the fuck out because it is none other than the girl from her dream. She has a grim mask of an expressionless face and the same weird waxy quality of skin as Prince Ianthe Nibirius, and she also has a wreath of finger bones and blossoms in her wildly red hair.
Hot. Gorgeous. I wonder... if you were another person in this crowd and you see this expressionless, waxy-looking person, do you immediately go, well, that's a zombie?
I don't know.
It would be super unsettling. And you're used to the idea that they use bodies, right? Like that's part of the local knowledge.
Like in our like American culture, we don't see dead bodies.
No, except an open casket.
Yeah, I think it is fairly... like, if a body has been dead for a while, even if it's preserved, it's pretty obvious that it's not, there's something uncanny valley about it. So it's like, even if you don't pick up immediately that this is a dead body, I think that it is unsettling.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
So, okay, that's it. That's the broadcast. And the militia starts telling people to disperse, and people in the crowd have already started yelling. And in their fear, the crowd is forming these rivers and currents. And Nona looks over at Hot Sauce, and she finds that Hot Sauce is fully having a panic attack. She is filled with the fear her body spent so much of its time rejecting. And for once, Nona has exactly the right tools. She squeezes Hot Sauce's wrist and has her do the breathing exercises that Pyrrha and Cam have taught her.
It's actually a really powerful moment, for me at least, watching Hot Sauce, because Hot Sauce is described as such a leader and so powerful and so untouchable. And this is the first time ever that you see her break. And she just keeps saying they're not real. Like I don't know. There's something that is hugely humanizing in this moment about Hot Sauce, who is so full of dissociation and distancing herself from the horrors that she's seen.
I think she feels comfortable around Nona.
Yeah. So they climb down from the pole and they weave their way through the crowd to the opening before the shots start behind them. And then they are out and they run. They run and run and run. They're scrambling over things and cutting themselves until they hear a familiar voice. And the angel is yelling to them out the window of her truck with the grill. So they dive inside and the angel says to her driver, "Drive." And then the angel tells them, "Both of you deserve to be bloody pancakes." Kevin was in hysterics. And she takes Nona back to the building with serious shock when Nona tells her where she lives. She's the building. Really?
The craning phrase
Of the neck for both the driver and
delightful writing.
The angel. Just what? And she tells Hot Sauce that she can stay at the angel's place that she knows. Nona gets to the building and then climbs all 33 flights to their apartment door because you can't trust the elevator. And when she opens it, she finds Cam sitting at the table, anxiously tearing newspaper into strips, the labor of anxiety.
Like a bird.
And Cam hugs Nona so hard it hurts. And Nona tells her she's fine and then asks where Pyrrha is. And Cam goes limp because Pyrrha went to pick up Nona from school 5 or 6 hours ago. And she isn't back.
Dun, dun, dun.
Meanwhile, in a dream. Act 3. Don't follow me. I'm mad.
John 1918. FTL travel solved. Cows watch sunsets. They left you.
In the dream, the water keeps rising, but he makes it go away and raises up parts of the land.
Wow.
Sounds very biblical. Whatever.
It's very biblical, but also it is like still shocking. I don't
It's not
understand the limits of
necromancy,
his
yeah.
power.
Unless there's
Right, that's what I'm saying.
unless
It
there's
makes
just
no
a
sense to me.
ton of bones in that earth, right? Like he just pull like
Dead
he
stuff.
Good point.
So they find a broken concrete building guarded by shards of cracked bone.
So, the craft facility.
Probably.
what is Earth but the bones of a planet?
And dead stuff. Dead trees.
He's not ready to go near it, and he tells her about the political chaos, the bureaucracy, trying to get a seat at the table, the Interpol warrants. And he can only trust his inner circle, his scientists, his engineer, his detective, his lawyer, his artist, his nun, his hedge fund manager, and his 2 dead kids, Ulysses and Titania.
Way to make it creepy.
It's also just now he also has 2 dead princes.
Yep. He can't
Ew.
bring Ulysses and Titania back to life, really. And the nun thinks that's obvious. Their souls are gone. And he didn't want to believe that there's such a thing as a soul. He wants to believe that he just hasn't got it right. Turns out they're both correct.
Yeah, so the river hadn't been accessed, right? Isn't that what that means? He hadn't gotten it right. He hadn't been able to put a soul in them yet, but he could get it right.
He didn't want to
revive
believe
them.
that the soul was such a thing. He just wanted to
Yeah.
believe
So
that he
he-
hadn't got them resurrected, that he hadn't turned their bodies back on correctly, that there was
Right.
still something in their brains he hadn't fixed.
But
Oh,
the
I read that as
interpretation
much
then-
more insidious about like lictoring and stuff. Like
Ah.
I don't think at that
I think
point,
the
at this point,
interpretation
that's
is
what it
that
is.
he hadn't
He's still a
acknowledged that souls
scientist.
were something to access, and that would be the way to put a soul in a human body to like bring them back to life functionally.
Yeah. I think it's still like very like a scientist, like the soul isn't a
Which
thing and
is
not
a
like
f-
And
it's a funny thing to
physical
be-
biological thing problem that he's trying to solve, even though he has magic, rather than there's
soul
a
problem.
metaphysical thing going on too.
And this is funny considering in the last chapter we had a soul swap of Ianthe's consciousness being attached to a different body.
Well, then they found out where the money went. This makes him mad, and he has to go walk around the fields for a while before he comes back. The funding had been diverted to a project that's going to take ships and use faster than light travel, aka FTL. They said that they'd shut down the cryo project because it wasn't good enough, citing the 8% chance of lasting damage and the unsolved maternity issue. And this is particularly grating because early on in the cryo project, it had been John and Mercy pushing for improved stats because at that time, the funders were happy with 20% plus damage, and they didn't give a fuck about maternity. But now, here they are using this shit as justification.
This would piss me off fucking enormously. Like, this is actually one of those moments when I'm like, I fucking feel you, John. Like, that is fucked up.
In any case, the new plan is to evacuate the whole population via FTL. They claim they've fixed the problem of getting locked in the chrono well doing quantum wheelies.
Quantum wheelies. So
It was
funny.
so funny, dear listener, because immediately after we record an episode, inevitably, I don't know, somewhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours later, we get texts from both Brooke and John always about how they felt about the chapters. And this one, there was so much going on. Holy shit, the broadcast. Holy shit, the Anthony Beers. Holy shit. But what did Brooke focus on? She just texts quantum wheelies, lol.
So, the method is to affix an FTL ship to a signal being broadcast by a guide ship outside so that you can get out of whatever these quantum wheelies are. You can be tugboated out. And apparently this is because there's no way to know where you're going to pop out of FTL. So you could just be phasing through a sun or halfway through the universe or whatever. You have to have a ping to pull yourself to.
It's interesting, too, because he's right. So he mentions that it's not truly faster than light travel. And that's correct. This implies that you're effectively popping outside of the normal dimensionality of time and space and then popping back in. It's not a question of actually passing distances over time, if that makes sense.
I was very happy. I just recently watched Stargate for the first time. So the seven, you need 7 coordinates in space, right? To get an object.
That would make sense, actually.
It sounds like a version of traveling through the river to me.
Or not the traveling through the river, but the steelies.
No, but I'm with Brooke. I feel like traveling through the river is effectively popping out into another dimension and then popping back in. And the question is whether it's the same other dimension.
There's a funny thing in here where he says shortly after this that's going to take 10,000 years to figure it out.
He doesn't have the maths. It's going to take him 10,000 years to figure it out.
It's the time, space, like necromantic power overlap that John keeps talking about, or that is like hinted at. There's something there. We don't know what it is yet, but it's there.
Fake science, John. Good luck predicting it.
Yeah, fake science. We don't know. Okay, anyway, so the plan is to send 12 ships at first with one guide and then go back for the rest of the population, which in contrast to the cryo plan, which could hold billions of people, each of these ships can only take thousands because they have live crews and everybody is alive the whole time.
It's such an obvious problem.
It's 12 billionaire bunkers.
Yeah, but like the idea that this could in any way remove the population, even if it went back and forth ferrying people. There are 10 billion people on Earth, and we know that because they talk about the 10 billion in the first couple of books. Like, and you're taking them 12,000 at a time? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no chance.
M freaks out and says this was the rats scattering and that they are looking at a private flotilla carrying the rich bastards to safety. A agrees, and whenever they're in agreement, you know shit is serious.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, if you're in the shoes of somebody on Earth at this point, on this Earth, and somebody says to you, "Oh, you can get on this ship. We've solved faster than light travel. You know, we're gonna pop out somewhere in space, or you could stay here as the Earth ends, however that's happening, ongoing. What would you choose?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Both of those sound miserable.
What did you just say?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. They both sound miserable.
Huh. Never heard that.
You haven't heard that?
No.
I wonder if wonder if this is like a mountain state phrase.
Yeah, I was like, this might be a little country.
Right. That's my point too. Like, there's this whole like rich billionaires getting out to safety, and I'm like, seems like a risk on that side too.
Well, so John kept saying, no one's gonna fall for that. There's checks and balances. Someone's watching. But no one's listening to him at this point. They keep saying that John et al. Are crazy. They're kooks. They're monsters. They keep saying, cows watch sunsets.
Yeah.
That's just such a funny analogy for like what's going on about being like, you are monsters. You killed cows.
Yep.
It was very depressing. Actually, just
it felt
yeah,
bad.
this whole
with the current environment, this whole chapter was incredibly depressing.
I agree.
He says they left you and they didn't look back. They didn't give a fuck about trying to save you. She says, I don't remember. He says, I can't forget.
This fits in really nicely with all of our conspiracy theories, but
I know.
At least some of them.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
We'll get there. Because as much fun as quantum wheelie sound, it's time for a game. Interstitial. Cows watch sunsets, man. So look, from a PR standpoint, I think we can all agree that it really would have been better for our cryo bros. At least it's better than crypto bros. Is it? If they had dismembered a bunch of conspiracy theorists to build their wall instead of a bunch of animals, because that's just how the human psyche works. To quote the very first episode of the great American art drama Community, what makes humans different from other animals? We're the only species on Earth that observes Shark Week. Sharks don't even observe Shark Week, but we do. For the same reason, I can pick up this pencil, tell you its name is Steve, and go like this.
Don't you dare.
And part of you dies just a little bit on the inside. Because people connect with anything. We can sympathize with a pencil, we can forgive a shark, and we can give Ben Affleck an Academy Award for screenwriting. People can find the good in just about anything but themselves. Look at the person sitting next to you. I want you to extend that person the same compassion you extend to sharks, pencils, and Ben Affleck.
I actually feel like this is a phenomenal insight. This is like, it absolutely does not matter whether, you know, John had killed people, but people are deeply upset by the idea of 2,000 cows being slaughtered and turned into an art installation. There's something visceral about it.
Well, as much as I'd like us to all practice that kind of empathy, what pun were you going to say, John?
No, it wasn't a pun. It was a depressing comment. So we're
Yeah.
Ooh.
Moving.
Even better.
Yeah. It's a little rougher to do this week. Okay. As much as I'd like us all to practice that sort of empathy, I think what we really need right now is a game about cows, which is why this week we're turning it over to resident dairy expert Brooke for a trivia game called Got Milk?
Dear listener, if you're in Gen Z, Got Milk used to be a media campaign to get children to drink more milk. You probably don't remember this, but these posters were in every cafeteria in elementary school. But what was it?
It had like a resurgence a couple years ago.
It was just big business milk propaganda.
Which we've gone back to because did you know now how many
Yeah.
servings of cheese? Never mind.
Yeah. Cows. Let's clear up some basic terminology first, shall we? What is the overarching general term for the animals that we get beef from?
Bovines.
Yeah, I was going to say bovines, bovids. Are you just looking for cattle? What are we looking
Yes,
for?
I'm looking for cattle.
Oh.
'Cause
Okay.
What are cows specifically?
It's hard to miss them.
Cows are female cows are female cattle.
Oh, okay.
This also brings up, here's a real country phrase for you. When I say something about like, well, I guess I'll try to do it, my dad will say, well, a steer can try.
Okay, so then what's a steer?
That is a male cow that has been castrated,
Correct.
as opposed to a bull, which is a male cow, which has not been castrated.
Thank you very much. So yes, a cow is a female cattle, but it's of reproductive age. Before that, they're referred to as heifers. You may have heard the term heifer.
Oh,
They are part of a group called ruminants because they have an important digestive compartment called the rumen, which leads me to my next trivia question. How many stomach chambers does a cow have, and which one is the rumen?
I easily could have told you multiple, and I would have had no idea how many. Who said 4?
I thought there was. I
have
was
no
going to say. I
idea.
was going to say 5, and I thought it was the rumor was number 2.
Okay, I'm going with 3. Ruminant is number 2.
Marie,
I'm
you
going
said
with 4. I have no idea which one the rumen is.
Marie is the most correct.
Tell us more.
there
Is
are
the
4.
rumen the one that's like the first one because you do that and then you have to chew it again and then you put it back in?
She's got this like
Fuck yeah.
incredible Idaho based
She's
knowledge.
so in touch with the cows.
Yeah, you're about to get a key to a city in Idaho. Yeah.
I learned this on the job. She goes, "Be born in Idaho."
Well, because they have to chew because like
Yeah.
most things that are eating grass do a double processing. So like rabbits eat their own poop again, but it's only a certain
Coprophagic.
kind of poop. So it's like they know which ones are like
Have the grass in it.
have grass like
Half
have grass that
digested
needs
grass.
to be digested again, and they know
Pepper?
which ones
Yeah.
are like that's done.
Yeah.
Cows are, the rumen is the very first of the 4 stomachs. It's this like 100-liter fermentation vat. And when they're chewing cud, that's because they have regurgitated that partly processed plant matter and they're refining it a little bit further so that microbes can get at the components of the grass better.
Okay, so you throw up into your mouth and then you chew through the hard parts that are still part of the throw up and then swallow it again.
Correct.
What the fuck are the other 3 stomachs for?
So then, I'm so glad you asked. After that, it goes through basically like it's called the reticulum. It's a reticulated surface. It's got like it's a filter. It catches big particles and rocks because cows do eat rocks and other like big stones.
Well, if you're eating
and
your stuff off the
seeds.
ground and you've like
Yeah.
got like the roots
So
and
there's
stuff,
a
like I can see that.
filter. There's a filter that'll prevent like large things from going into their system. Honestly, genius. Like horses need that. And they don't
I'm
have
thinking
it.
about this. Like, is this something where you could basically take the analogy of the way that the cow stomach works and put it like next to like a sewage processing plant, like a water processing plant for like
Wastewater.
microbiology? Pedagogy. I'm always thinking about
Maybe.
pedagogy.
I'll
man.
let you know. I'll look it up, or you can look it up since you're the teacher.
But then, okay, so yeah, then there's this filter, catches large matter, and then it goes through like this third stomach that doesn't necessarily have like, they say it's like just for like absorption of nutrients and water and stuff like that, but it seems like a kind of a weird like thing to have at that point because the fourth stomach is really like the stomach as we know it. It's where like there's like acid digestion and enzymatic digestion like that like is very similar to our stomach. That's the fourth stomach. So they've got these 3 compartments beforehand that allows them to break down plant matter though. It's quite cool.
This is actually completely fascinating.
And yeah, this like 100-liter fermentation vat. So one of the wild things about like plant-based or the synthetic meat growing stuff
Sorry,
is like
I gotta pause you, Brooke.
Yeah.
When you say 100 liters, are you serious? Because I was skimming past that. Is it actually? It's 100 fucking liters. There's 100 liters of space in their first fucking stomach, in just one stomach.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
it's probably on the upper end.
Yeah, but the other ones aren't going to be that big, right? The other ones aren't going to be that big because you need that space for the fermentation chambers, and then the other ones.
You can't have a germ-free cow; they'll die.
Fit 100 liters anywhere in me, like Jesus.
Yeah, they're big. A fully grown cow is 1,500 pounds.
Yeah, same. Sorry, I'm just kidding. We can keep going.
Do you guys remember when cows were getting like mad cow disease?
Yeah.
I know way too much about this, Brooke. Do not let me.
Well, tell me about it, Marie. What do you remember? Why were they getting mad cow?
Because they were being fed bone meal. So mad cow is a spongiform encephalopathy, which means that spongiform is spongy and encephalopathy is a brain disease. So it literally puts holes in your brain, and people can get the spongiform encephalopathy from cows, which is why people were getting variant Jacob Creutzfeldt disease, because it was transferred from cows because it is a prion, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't do cannibalism.
Well, do you know why they were being fed bone meal?
Diseases. Why they were being fed bone meal? Because they wanted to, it was like they relaxed the regulations in other parts of Europe, and then they relaxed it in the UK because they wanted to give them an easier form of getting protein rather than having to feed them hay or something.
It was more about calcium. It was actually mostly used as a calcium supplement.
Interesting.
And so all they had to do is be like, we're not going to use that for calcium anymore. We'll just go back to limestone chalk.
And they literally solved that problem?
Yeah, there's some other micronutrients, but yeah, you just basically can't feed them bone meal for calcium anymore, or in general.
That's so
you can't. You don't feed them bone meal anymore for this risk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they were like, recycling thing. Like, what are we going to do with bone meal other than this? Like, we'll just feed it to cows.
Dairy
like, you'll
industry
get the calcium and the protein.
Mostly dairy, but because it's less centralized, at least in the U.S. than the beef industry, but very resourceful. A lot of our food waste, a lot of like our plant things that are grown for human consumption that didn't pass like quality tests ends up going to cows. Very, very resourceful. Let's do a lightning round. Wrap it up. What's the gestational period of a cow?
9 months. You already told us this.
Cool. Good recall.
It's amazing that you remember things, Marie.
That one's a pretty easy one because it's the human one.
I didn't have it.
I was shocked.
How old is a cow when it reaches puberty?
Probably
this
7th
is trivia.
grade.
You gotta guess.
I'm gonna say 4.
It's about 1 year old.
Okay, great.
That's when they get pregnant for the first time, and they have a calf when they're 2. What's more valuable when you're selling milk? Milk fat or milk protein?
Fat.
I'm gonna say protein.
Protein.
Protein!
Yeah, because we take
actually
fat out of milk anyway, right? Like, because we're doing 2%, 1% skim milk.
Yeah, it's mostly for like cheese that the milk protein goes to, or whey, which used to be fed to cows and now is highly valuable, to pigs, and is now very highly valuable for the gym bros.
Okay,
went the way of chicken wings and lobsters.
I heard a rumor over Christmas that people are having trouble with Christmas cookies not coming out the way they normally do, and that this may in part be related to butter and to the fact that they're actually managing to get like more concentrated fat in butter, and so more of the stick ends up being water based, and you literally are adding more water to your cookies. Is this true?
This has nothing to do with milk because this is all to do with like what the processors are doing. But
it's post-processing. Okay.
Yeah, from the baking perspective, like European butter is a lot higher fat content and American butter is a lot higher water content. Is that right, Marie?
Yeah.
So you have to be kind of careful about your recipe.
Yeah, I had heard this too. And to me, this just anecdotally, I started noticing fairly recently that if you like try to use the microwave I've got it down to the science. My children still don't know how to soften butter in the microwave without melting it.
Like melting it.
But then I would notice, especially because we keep we'll buy a ton of butter and then keep it in the freezer because we my children bake so much that we use a ridiculous amount of butter.
Awesome.
And so they'll come straight from the freezer to try and soften it, and then it'll melt all weird, and it melts super duper weird. Like that's when you can see how much water is in the butter. And I'm like, I don't ever remember seeing this before. And I don't think that it's not like we recently started freezing butter. Like
No,
we've
I think
always done this.
I think there
There's
is a
always
change
been a
in
lot of water
processing.
in butter.
Yeah.
Like when you
but
brown
it's like,
butter, there's all that like foaming that comes as the water's cooking off.
Yeah, but apparently I think it's gotten worse. Like the cookies have gotten worse.
I think we've gotten a lot more European butter in our diets, and now when we switch back to American butter, we forget how it's different.
That's possible too. Yeah,
I'm
people
using
were talking
Kerrygold
about
most
using
of the time.
Kerrygold for everything, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, to be rich enough to use Kerrygold for everything. What a world. If we
What a
had a few
world.
more Patreon subscribers, boy, I would use Kerrygold in all of my baking. I could do that now because I don't actually bake anything, so it solves that problem. Back to the lightning round.
All right, last three. Where do dairy cows go when they're done providing milk?
I don't want to know. To a green pasture and retirement.
The dairy farmers call it a happy meal. Where does
that's
chocolate
awful.
milk come from?
Yeah, ground beef, because they're steaks and stuff. Like they're not going to be grade A beef. They're like ground beef.
Chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Obviously, did you know that 7% of people actually responded to like a dairy survey with that? And I really have to hope that was people just like laughing and saying, yeah, brown
I
cows.
think it has to be people trolling. There's no
that-
one who believes that.
Right? There's no way, right?
There's no way.
Reminder that 20%
no way.
of
I don't
people think
believe
they
it.
could kill a wolf in hand-to-hand combat, which means it's actually
Well, that's
40%
different.
of men.
That's funny.
Speaking of brown cows, what's the cutest domestic breed of
Jersey.
cow? Yes.
Okay,
Highland.
and the heifers
Highland
are the
cows.
cutest of the Jersey cows.
No, it's the brown cows. It's the Jersey cows.
I
They're
love
so
Highland
cute.
cows.
I'm such a fucking sucker for a Highland cow
cows
too. I like.
Yeah, they're
it's
bros,
just
but
the
like when you just
shagginess.
like
I just
look up
love
a fucking
shaggy
Jersey cow.
Jersey
Look
cows
up
are
a
the
fucking Jersey cow.
sweetest. Look at
They've got like the
little
big
faces.
brown, like whenever it's described a liquid brown eye, that is a fucking
Jersey
Jersey cow.
No.
Heard.
Don't they also have the
Give me
cute
the
little
Highland
horns?
cows
They have
all
little
day.
teeny tiny, like cute little curved horns, or Jerseys don't.
I've never seen those. Maybe they did at one point.
I think it's a different type of
Were
cow.
you looking at boys?
Maybe.
I don't know. Don't see a lot of male jerseys, to be honest.
That's true.
Um,
Anyway.
yeah,
my neighbor,
anyway.
I milked a Jersey cow. I milked a Jersey cow once in my life. And the most disturbing thing about that entire thing was that the boys were great at it, but the girls weren't at milking a cow.
well, with that,
So knowing that, let's grab a T-bone to snack on while our newbies provide us with some rampant speculation.
So sorry, vegans. This is second week in a row we really fucked you. I'm so sorry.
Act 4. Were those your dulcet tones making commentary? I actually love this because I use dulcet tones all the time in casual conversation, and I think everybody's like, the nut job is talking. So Brooke and John aren't just great at befriending dogs, they're also brilliant conspiracy theorists. So Brooke and John, what the fuck is happening? Oh, wait. Can I say my conspiracy theory now?
Sure.
Go for it.
Based on the shit that we see John doing in these chapters, I don't think, and like based on stuff and like weird things that happen in Harrow, I think that John's powers are based on thality and everybody else's powers are based on thanergy. And that is my conspiracy theory. He has a separate type of power, and then he gave everybody access or like showed them how to have access to this other really fucked up darker one.
How do you explain his like power over dead bodies, like initially, like in these early chapters?
Like he might still have some of the thanergy, but in other words, he has access to thalergy power that nobody else does. And that's why like his like it's this
Is that
lemon
because-
scour, clean, like weird, like when he does these weird things. And you don't actually see him use magic that often.
Would that be under the idea that his lictor partner is Earth, which would be like by definition,
Who knows?
aka
I think we can
thalergy?
debate this more fully later. I'm more comfortable with the both than the one or the other.
I agree with
But
both.
he
I think
for
both makes
sure
sense.
has power that other people do not have access to. Yeah.
I like the idea, Marie. Back on row, what the fuck happened to Pyrrha?
Shenanigans.
I don't think it's BOE.
Kidnapped Yeah.
So who took her? Could be the 9 houses,
Yeah, now that the 9 houses are back.
which would suck. And I don't know who would have found her. Varun is an option, technically. Like, that's something that had, but although I think people would know if Varun had popped out and like found a lictor, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think
Like, there
it's
was the whole
Varun.
periscoping thing. Okay. There's the whole convoy thing.
Yeah, we still have nothing on that. We just have a bunch of like zombie creatures.
Yeah, speaking of, did she go do something of her own volition, or
I am
has she
leaning
been
towards she
kidnapped?
is doing things on her own agenda, like doing something in response to
The whole situation.
the whole situation.
I think Cam's response made me feel very much like there would have been a system in place for if that were going to happen, and instead she has unexpectedly disappeared and been kidnapped. The angel.
There's a really interesting comment along with she owns an arboreal dog, or a dog with arboreal legs rather, but also like her driver says at one point, pretending you can bandage bipeds.
The bipeds is such like a throwaway word there that means a lot.
Like pretending you can fix humans, basically, right?
Is she a vet? Is she a dog breeder? Is it something as simple, stupid as that?
Well, would they give all this protect? No, there's got to be something that like,
So
especially with
she's
the name
in this
the
like
angel
truck
with
with the grill.
yeah.
Which is like, isn't that what we saw on the convoy? So like, if she's not part of BOE, we don't think she's part of BOE, just like, I don't know, given circumstances. I don't think she's part of House Forces. She seems unrelated. I don't know, convoy seems like the most likely answer.
Yeah, associated with whatever the convoys are. I mean,
This third group that we don't know anything about.
all of the names in this series are so literal. Like angel is like a messenger of God. Like could it be like fallen angel? Like there's just like there is something there. We don't know what it is yet.
I think she's just an angel because she sits with children
And then there's also like
and
after
takes care of them.
like you get to be her, or it's like I have like the honor of being they or something. There's like it's
There was like almost like a weird like royalty thing that she had like a lot of like advanced, or not, I'm saying royalty, but whatever. She had like a lot of power over the driver, right?
yeah, the royal they, like that's interesting.
It was a weird, I agree, that whole like car situation and like the little like side notes that we got there were really curious. I don't know where we're going with that.
Yeah.
Next chapter, are we going after Pyrrha? Is that the focus of the next chapter? Or are we going to do it down a completely different side story?
Who knows? This could go in like a dozen different directions. I mean, yeah, I'm going to read this as soon as this wraps up. So, and then your last note here, Brooke, is about JG's retribution.
10,000 years ago?
Like, I am leaning more and more towards we kind of just nailed the origin, which is that like John hates space humanity because they're all the descendants of the rich bastards that abandoned him on Earth.
Dude, that's like such a wild concept to have 10,000 years. How many generations? How many generations that you would still be trying to punish for the E to the 5 generations before E to the 5 greats grandparents. And that's who's being punished? They're
I'm going to throw
Great
out
E to the
something
5
here
grandchildren.
of, is imperialism punishment, or is imperialism something else?
well,
That's interesting.
we're living in an interesting world today.
But
Purely
in other words, my point is
getting
imperialism
something.
is separate from punishment.
Sure.
Well,
Right.
yeah, a
Punishment is
combination-
part
But who's
of
there to
imperialism
punish?
tactics. But
I'm not
the
talking
point
about
of
imperialism.
imperialism isn't specifically to punish. The point of
It's a-
imperialism is power.
and
Yes.
resource generation, right? So like it could just be we're doing resource again, like that, because we've talked about this before. Where is God killing everyone to like keep the power flowing, keep the lights on, to like build up something about the to flood the river? Like we don't have enough information.
But who's there to punish at this point? Like, what's the point of building up power?
To continue, what is the point of billionaires continuing to do what they do when they're already billionaires? Like, what's the point? Once
More
you
power.
have that much, why are you continuing to grab more and more and more? Like, to me, it's the same mindset of like, I just don't actually comprehend it, but I do understand that it exists.
I think it's different when you're talking about punishment, though. Punishment and revenge. Revenge has an endpoint. Revenge has...
Right, but
Revenge
I
is
guess
an
that's what I'm
act.
saying is I don't know that the actual actions here on New Row are punishment and
Oh.
revenge of John
Sorry.
versus
No.
imperialism.
I think we're outside of New Row. I think this is more the general concept of like what's going on in this book. What is when Augustine talks about his like 10,000 year long retribution, like our John thinks this is what he's like, what's motivating him.
What I'm trying to say is some actions may be punishment or searching out punishment or searching out revenge. And
But that's
some
the part I'm
actions
confused by.
are just probably imperialism. And do we know which ones are which? Probably not at this point.
My point is, what is even there to punish at this point? Who is there to punish at this point?
I think you were right, Brooke, that it makes no sense to punish the child for the sins of the father. And what you're actually talking about here is punishing the child for the sins of the great, 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 great,
Continue for maybe 100,000.
No, I totally hear you. And I also hear what Marie's saying, which is like, who is the one who's being targeted and punished? Do we actually think that these refugees are the people that John is actively trying to punish? Or are they just part of like this larger plan of power and consolidation and you know, yeah.
The last piece here is just we get Gideon's body back, right? Like Gideon's body makes an appearance and it appears that we're puppeting.
She might be like a beguiling corpse, right? That sort of concept, but I don't think that there's a soul attached to her.
Yeah, we get Gideon's body. We're not, because like she doesn't talk or do anything. She just sits there ramrod straight. So like that reminds me of Harrow's parents not breathing.
Yeah.
But then Babs is like talking and doing stuff.
Babs is being fully has a soul attached to it. Different soul, not his. Well, I guess a version of his soul, a cannibalized version of his soul. Have we done weird Lichter things in the last several months?
I do really like the idea of like Babs's body with the Anthe soul inside, with Babs's soul inside. With there's something great there.
Anyway, but yeah, I don't think that Gideon's body has anybody attached to it. And I would suspect that you could kind of put whatever soul you wanted into a body. Maybe he's seeking out Gideon's soul, which he knows is part of Harrow, and Harrow is also somebody he views as a child. So right now he could just be looking for Harrow in order to put Harrow inside of Gideon.
Yeah, it's also interesting because Gideon's body seemingly naturally preserved itself, right? Like nothing they ever did could do it, but Babs did not have that, right? And so
Babs had been taken on pretty quickly, so I'm sure it had like a magic cast on it and that.
Yeah, it seems to be well preserved. And again, we've talked about this before, but Ianthe's experiments with the apple, trying to preserve it or like turn it back.
Right.
There is something there as well.
She likes liminal spaces.
Yeah, is this like her version of that? Is like turning Babs back. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got this week.
Okay, so that's the end of day 3, and we're taking 2 weeks off for a quick mid-season break. But I guess we'll see if any of that stuff happens next time when John and Brooke listen to other people's messages in Nona the Ninth Chapters 17, 18, and John 5:1.
And if you, dear listener, are, like me and John, reading along for the first time, make sure you find our reading calendar on our website, frontline5th.podbean.com, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok. To support us, you can buy merch or join our Patreon, all of which are linked in the show notes. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And if you didn't like it, feel free to lie. Now head off to sleep, my baby necros, because Mommy and Daddy have some deep spoilers to discuss.
Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
Act 5. Is this still on?
Warning. This portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and like 2% snickering.
Seriously. We will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the Ninth. If that is not what you want, turn back now. And we're running. I like you trying to rein me in and being like, I don't think they know these things yet.
Oh, that was not even that. I literally just like dissociated and was doing my own, like grocery list in my head and came back in and we were still talking about it. And I was like, wait, what? You and Brooke were just talking past each other. Okay. Vis-a-vis the thalergy-thanergy thing, I think this is really complicated. I think it's a really interesting question of what John's powers really stem from. I like the idea that, like, inherently it's the soul of Gaia, so that is inherently life force. We know that he's also gets a hit from thanergy, though, because there's going to be a moment when a couple people die and he goes, bam, and is able to, like, do a big piece of necromancy.
What if it's something where currently what's happening to him in the dreams is, like, something that Earth Electo is giving to him that is changing about him, and that is how he can access thalergy related powers. But then when he does the lictoring, he basically becomes a super lictor and gets the Thanergy as well.
That's interesting. It's also possible that what's happening in these dreams is happening in a physical river bubble and that he's able to manipulate it. The whole thing is interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Can we talk about the dream a little bit? So there's a couple of things I wanted to mention. The number of times that Tamsin has reemphasized this phrase, anything that hurt them only hurt them for a little while. Like she's said that 3 or 4 times to the point where I feel like it's important, but it doesn't make sense to me that it would be important because we know that they should both be regeneratable. You know, it's just that she keeps saying it over and over.
I think maybe it's also this thing of like, it's not like they are traipsing through like a harmless landscape or that they cannot be hurt.
That's interesting. You're right. That's actually a very good point. They're not immune to the things around them. The ash makes them sick and then they stop
they're
being
not
sick.
invulnerable to the ash. They're not invulnerable to drinking seawater. They're not invulnerable to hunger. They can just heal so quickly that it only hurts them for a little while.
And then the other thing that I thought was really interesting in this particular kind of John chapter, I mean, there's a couple of things. One, it said explicitly he was always scared of the water. And I fucking love this because the water is either the seawater. Yeah, teachers terrified of it too. That's a great fucking point. Either the water is seawater in case what you're scared of is electo, is earth, or the water is the river, in which case what you're scared of is effectively death, which I also think is fascinating for John. The idea of, because he hates the idea of being unconscious, he hates the idea of being out of control, and he hates the water, which maybe is something that he can't quite grasp.
The other thing that I thought was interesting about like he hates the idea of being unconscious, and it was basically like he wasn't sleeping, is like, do we see him? Like, has he figured out how to basically not sleep? Because we don't see him sleep. We see him awake at like weird times when everybody else is asleep.
That would be really fascinating, actually, if he's created a world for himself now where he never has to dream, never has to like access parts of himself that are, you know, uncontrollable, that he never has to be out of control.
Obviously, I think he is actually there partaking in the dreams too. And so he must be sleeping. Because I think when...
Or some sort of trance state. There's definitely something weird happening, but that's an interesting one. Okay. I also I want to bring up the complexity of John's character because there's no doubt that his main motivation is revenge, right? He's a petty man, but this part at the end where he talks about how they left Earth to die and he can't forgive them. I really have no sense sometimes of what he believes is true. Does he believe that he's doing this for Earth? Or does he know in his heart of hearts that most of what he's doing is based on like personal pride? His project got cut down. He wasn't being listened to. He wasn't in control.
I think the way that John is written, it's very easy to read him as a white privileged crypto bro. And that is not where his anger is coming from.
I think he is still a privileged man. There's like, that is part of his identity, but that's a really good point that a huge part of his identity is something that is inaccessible to you and I and really important. It would be sick as hell to get some Maori scholars on here to talk about both like the history and the culture among our, 100 listeners? Whichever one of you happens to be Maori, be a scholar of history, and a Tamsin fan, hit me up.
We would love for you to school us.
Yeah, please fucking teach me. Please. I don't know shit. Oh, that's really fascinating. The last thing I want to talk about with John, actually, I only thought about this during the record today. I want to talk about Christabel. Everyone dismisses Chris as fucking dumb. You know, the intellect you'd find in an orange, and as being unbelievably annoying. Everyone fucking hates her. And I find it interesting that actually, if you look at the dreams here, she might be the most important person, period. Pyrrha gets mentioned a lot. She's a big helper. And then M and A get lots of screen time, but they're not really doing anything. They're just like commentators in the background. The nun is the only person who brings him something new that he doesn't have access to. And she actually does this multiple times. She is going to really impact the way he thinks about necromancy on multiple fronts. And I just find that completely fascinating that that's like something that he later has to dismiss and diminish or that he forgets about in some way.
Yeah, I don't know that he necessarily dismisses Christabel, but he allows everybody around him to do it.
Yeah. It just seems like such a deliberate erasure now that I'm thinking about it, that like he doesn't like when somebody else was smarter than him or when somebody else had something to offer that he couldn't give.
I think that Christabel is absolutely fascinating because she is like the only things that we know about Christabel are like we get a fair amount from the dreams, but the other like thing that I can't let go of with Christabel is that she killed herself twice.
Yes, I know.
For this project.
Yep.
And that again, like that's another thing where like we can get into that later, but like we keep saying nun. It's never explicitly said Catholic, but you assume, right? Nun, Catholic. Yep. And I really wonder if him calling her a nun, like how much of this is like reality and how much of this is him just saying that to like I don't know. Because again, Catholics are super, super weird about suicide.
Yes, it's one of the biggest sins is the sin of despair, the sin of giving up on the gift that God has given you as life. This oddly is actually something that Shakespeare revisits over and over and over, that the greatest sin of suicide. Yeah, I think that's fascinating.
The fact that the nun does it twice for this project, right? Like I talked over and over, I'm like, this does not seem like I know that like Tamsin grew up with Catholic overtones clearly and everything. Like she clearly grew up with a Catholic background. And also, none of this seems 100%. Catholic nun to me at all. This seems like
we talked last week about how the way she
communicated.
100%. The way she talks about Jesus is not a reverent way of talking about him. It's And actually, okay, so I'm going to say a thing that I thought of last week, and I don't necessarily believe this is true because this may just be about my experience. So I listen to a lot of atheist podcasters in the like atheist community. And when they're talking about like any of these Pew surveys that look at religiosity in different areas, they refer to nuns, which is None, which is the people who mark none when you ask what their religion is. That's actually a very common terminology, is to say the nuns are growing. Like they're, like, and it's not people who identify as atheists, it's people who identify as no religion. And I think there would be something really interesting actually if it's as simple as effectively a pun here, because she is irreverent, but also at the same time what she is a fanatic, but she's a fanatic for
John.
Yeah. Like she never seems like someone who's deeply obsessive about God or religion, but she is deeply committed to this process, this project. At some point, we're going to have to go through how eyes work in lictors, because it's like fucking me up a little bit.
If the body isn't alive, you can't switch the eyes.
Okay, so Babs's body always has Babs's eyes, even if Ianthe is driving, which is what we see. I like that. I also think she doesn't explicitly say what Gideon's eyes look like, but she says the eyes. And then it's like, oh my God, and Nona's freaking out. I assume that Gideon's body has Gideon's eyes, but that makes sense because Gideon's body has Gideon's soul. I just thought that was interesting. And then I wanted to touch on some of the places that we learn about in the rest of the universe. So Ur and Antioch, we know that there are rebels fighting on Antioch. You and I also know that the main thing that they're fighting on Antioch is these
the devils.
That's right. Ianthe intimates that the rebels on Ur were slaughtered. At least one person in the crowd disagrees, and actually Crown mentions it earlier in the day when she's trying to orient Judith. I think they were there on Ur before they came here. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just literally wanted to mention other places that exist because it feels like this is the only world, but obviously this is spread out even farther. I was thinking about Blood of Eden and transmitting messages and how many sects there must be, how many different approaches there really must be to this war.
So chaotic.
And the only thing that potentially really brings them all together is the message, is the angel. And,
and I love that this is now the second time that we have heard her called AIM. Completely and totally passed by.
Oh, well, because I just assumed that her name was Amy. Like, I straight up was just like, this is a nickname, a shortening of like a normal,
Yeah.
And
the newbies still call her the angel. The newbies have, and I do love that John is stuck on this messenger thing because I can't wait to get back to that.
Yes. But also, isn't this funny that like an angel is a messenger, but in fact, the angel is not a messenger. The angel is the message, which is fucking weird, right? Like, does she know a set of words, or is there something that's like, we're going to find out.
She has an implant, or she has been, has an implant, or she's been necromantically changed.
Modified. Yeah.
She has been modified to be the message. And I honestly think, especially given the they and given the way that Pal acts once he touches her, the fact that Pal can access it, I think means that the message is implanted with multiple people. It doesn't
We're gonna
really
debate
make
about
sense
this
because
more.
the message has two parts.
Yes.
So does the message have two parts mean that there were like literally like two sections? Does the message have two parts? Is like half of this Christabel and half of this, not Christabel, is half of this Cassie and half of this Nigella? Like,
Right. Like, is the message from the era of Cassie reaching out, or is the message truly from like
Earth.
10,000 or 9,000 years ago? Yeah. Okay. The very last thing that I want to say before I got to run. Nona remembers something. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it. Once you've stepped in, you're in. This isn't the hokey pokey. Do you think, I don't think it matters.
That's John.
But you think John said that? I'm
Yes.
torn. I feel like John
could be pure,
say that.
but
I feel like almost
I think if she
any of
remembers,
them.
I think if it sounds to me, and I was trying to search if it's been mentioned anywhere in previous books, and I don't think it has. I think that this is the mention that I'm remembering of the hokey pokey. But to me, I think if she's remembering something, it is something that John probably said.
Yeah. Well, and obviously the hokey pokey also originates on Earth, so you need someone who would remember and retain Earth concepts. Assuming that wasn't important enough for them to transmit to their lictors. Super. I also just like, what a delightful classic Tamsin moment to be like, the most important thing ever has happened. Nona has remembered something. And what is it? It's a joke about the hokey pokey. Fucking love it.
Such a troll. Okay.
I know.
It's fine. Act 6. See you next time, my little nunlets. So, looks like day 3 is over. There's only 2 more days until the tomb opens. So, we're taking off 2 weeks, but we will be back next time to see how many times Nona can get shot in a 15-minute span in Nona the Ninth, chapters 17, 18, and John 5:1. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontline5th.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoy this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and their hair is as well coiffed as dead Babs at patreon.com/frontline5th. And you can check out our merch at our Redbubble store, linked in the show notes. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontline5th@gmail.com. And with that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grunwald designs our killer merch. Hot! Gorgeous! The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.